All right, guys, we're live. We're live here on YouTube. Eric Weber, brand new studio in Los Angeles, California. These are my FYC screeners. We did the Batman review on Monday morning, 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. The embargo broke. Warner Brothers so kind to allow us to speak on the film. Almost a week after you see it, which is always a challenge because you see a film and you want to discuss it right afterwards. Sometimes it's fresh in your mind. You want to talk about it. You want to discuss it. But we held that. We had that discussion. It's available for you to see here on my channel. You can look for that, like and subscribe. I got to say that now all the time. Like and subscribe. But behind me, these FYC screeners. And, during award season, the studios send out screeners to you to, watch their films and obviously, hopefully, have you vote for the films. Now, these are going to be relics soon because I believe this is the last award season that you're going to see studios send these out because everything's now a screening link. Nobody really uses, hard copies of DVDs and stuff like that, physical media. But, in the meantime, I figured it's a good time to put it back on the wall here. So we got all kinds of films that I really love. There's some up here I don't necessarily love as much as others, but most of them I appreciate. The one I moved here from Monday, if you're paying attention on Monday, we moved Uncut Gems from way up there down here. So a lot of fans of that film. But here's the thing: if we're going to talk, and we're going to get to Batman in just a second, I promise. But if you're going to tell me that Uncut Gems is better than Good Time, then we really can't have a relationship going forward. It's going to be very tough. So hopefully you're on the right side of that, and you know that is the superior Safdie brothers film, Good Time. It's leaner, it's meaner, it's got Robert Pattinson, who is the Batman. As we talk about this film, and finally it is available for you to watch starting last night, the fan screenings all over the country. I know AMC had them, Regal, and they were $30 ahead. And tonight there are more of those investor screenings and whatever else. They're really doing a whole week of this. There were some fan screenings, I think, on Monday as well. But what's going to happen as we talk about box office with this is you have a situation where you have the Tuesday money, right, from last night. You got the money from tonight, and then you'll get the Thursday night money, the official opening preview night. And what Warner Brothers is going to do here is they're going to roll all of that money into the weekend. I don't know if that's going to go into Friday's number or to Sunday's number overall, but trust me, they are going to roll all that in because it just makes sense. You want to pop a big number for the opening weekend. And I know some people are like, where's the numbers from last night? Where are they going to be for tonight? They're not going to report that. They're going to roll it into either Thursday night's number or Friday's number overall. Because at the end of the day, on Sunday, when these articles get published, the Batman opened with, let's say, 150 million. I think it's at least 150 million. I know some of you are under that, but we'll discuss it. But let's just say it's 150. That's a good number. It's not as great as I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it at 175 or higher. There's a number of reasons why it's possibly not going to get to that, and we're going to talk about that during this discussion as well. But you want to have a big number because you have all the articles coming out. All the entertainment sites are going to say the Batman outperformed or it underperformed. And you want to have as big a number as possible when you're having that discussion on Sunday. So let's talk about the realistic expectations for this film. What is a number that we should be seeing on this? And when you go back and you look, we haven't had an official solo Batman movie in a decade, right? Going back to The Dark Knight Rises. And that film opened at about 160 million. Okay. So one thing to factor in here, there's a number of things, but one thing I really want to discuss about The Dark Knight Rises is for those of you who, forget this, or maybe you're too young to remember this, that Thursday night of the screenings of The Dark Knight Rises, those previous screenings, was the horrific Aurora theater shooting. And when that happened, that was a story, a major story that everyone in the country was aware of, that it happened at a midnight screening in Aurora, Colorado, of The Dark Knight Rises. So what you had going forward that weekend were a number of people, as you can understand, scared to go to a movie theater, thinking that there could be a copycat situation. So when you look at that number of 160, 165 for The Dark Knight Rises, That number should have been higher. That absolutely affected the box office because, again, people were scared to go to the multiplex. I saw that film on a Tuesday at a press screening. And, I was just like, this is a great film. Dark Knight Rises is a very, very strong film. And I'm thinking this thing's going to open at 200. So that's why that number's lower. So keep that in mind as we use that number. We want to use these numbers of the history, box office history, taking it forward with what we have here with the Batman. Another thing that's huge in the past 10 years, it's more expensive to go to a movie theater, right? I mean, think about ticket prices 10 years ago. I don't have the number in front of me. We know inflation. Okay. We know inflation as of late. And when you have that number, whatever that was, let's say that a ticket was $15 back then, and now the average is closer to 20, if not more. AMC, for some of those screenings for IMAX or Dolby or Prime, you're paying over 20. So over 20 a ticket. That's a difference, right? Because you're talking 15 to 20 to 25. That's a $10 difference per ticket. So when you get to that point, you're talking about a number that should be stronger than $160 million. But I do also understand The Dark Knight Rises was the end of an era, right? It was the end of the Nolan films. So there is that. This is the beginning of the Matt Reeves Batman era. And yes, there will be other Matt Reeves Batman films, right? If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, he delivers everything that you want. This is cinema. I mean, go back and listen to our review from Monday. I talked about it with Scott Menzel. Scott didn't like it as much as me, but he still appreciates the film, the filmmaking. You have to appreciate what Matt Reeves and Greg Fraser brings to the table. The two of them are just unbeatable when it comes to filmmaking, technical, just precision and calibration, and what you get when you go to a movie and you want to be taken into this world. And just like Denis does, obviously with Dune and so many back here, we have Arrival. I've got Blade Runner 2049. These are filmmakers. Matt Reeves is one of those who is capable of creating something of elevated art. And not every director is capable of that. So you have now Matt Reeves entering that conversation as one of the preeminent directors that we have, in addition to Christopher Nolan and Villeneuve and Bong and on and on, Tarantino. Go on and on and on. But here's what's going to happen this weekend. Here's my take on where this film goes as far as box office. Okay, so we had the Tuesday night screenings that were basically sold out from coast to coast, $30 a pop. That was not part of the AMC A-list. If you're not a member of A-list, you need to do that. It's $24 a month out here. I think it's 20 in other states. Let's just say $20, 24, whatever it is, wherever you are. You get to see 3 movies a week at that rate. 3 movies a week. Okay, so that is a total of 12 movies in a month that you can go see for $24. So each one, break it down, $2 a piece, $2. And that is not, there's no upcharge for Dolby. There's no upcharge for IMAX. There's no upcharge for Prime, for all these extra screens. So if you do not have A-list, you need to get it. But going back to Tuesday, $30 to go see that movie that was not part of A-list. So that's straight cash for Warner's at sellouts. Coast to coast, because this is the kind of film that you want to talk about early and often. You don't want to be behind on the discussion, especially when it comes to film Twitter, which we're all a part of, right? You want to be in on the conversation of these films. Do they work? Do they not work? And part of that is being early on it. You don't want to see it 2 weeks late. How many times have you ever sent a tweet and you're like, oh, I'm so sorry I caught this late, and it's like Sunday opening weekend. Oh, I'm late by, a day and a half, 2 days. But that's how it is now. We want to be on it first so we can discuss it now. And I think that's going to play into this without question when you talk about the drive and people really want to get out and see this thing because they want to get into the discussions about it. And it's a film that you want to discuss after you watch it. There's so much to discuss, and it is controversial. And I think that, the thing that really for me, when I saw the Batman last week, and it was, certainly I wouldn't say surprising to me, but it is an issue if you've seen the film or you're going to see the film, it is not for families at all. And I know some of you are going to say Christopher Nolan wasn't for family, his Batman. But this is different. This is a serial killer Batman movie. Okay. This is Batman meets Seven. It really is. It's Batman 7. And of course, we're talking about David Fincher's masterpiece. So when you do that, you are alienating a very significant portion of the audience, the movie going, public. And that means your number is going to be lower, right? Because it has to be, because you can't have, a four quad film. And a four quad film, let me explain that to you. If you don't know, maybe you do, but let's break that down. Four quad means you've got younger and older men and women. You've basically got the entire pie coming to see your movie. Okay. So if you really want a four quad film, obviously, if you are a studio and you want to make the max your cash on any film, a blockbuster, you want it to be a four quad. This is not a four quad film because you can't take kids to see it. Now, yes, you can, because it's PG-13, and people are, Eric, but it's PG-13. I can still take my kid. Yes, you can. But I can tell you right now, and I have kids. If you have young kids and you take your kids to see the Batman, you maybe aren't being that great of a parent. Go see it first. Make the decision. But it is dark. It is long. As you know, it's a 3-hour film. And you're asking young kids to sit through a 3-hour film in Endgame. Yeah, but listen, Endgame and the Batman are not of the same caliber as far as, child availability. They're just, listen, go see the Batman before you take kids to see it. But back to the box office, when you remove families from the equation, young kids, then you're going to have that number be a little bit lower. So I still think at the end of the day, right now, for me, the number is at least 150. I think anything under 150. Yes, Edward, I have kids. Edward Douglas. I don't talk about it much. Okay. It's a secret I have. I have kids. But here's the thing, and I wouldn't take my young kids to see the Batman. I'd take them now. They're a little bit older, but not when they were younger. I mean, they'd be scared for life. They'd be like, Daddy, why is the Riddler taping, dude's face up after bashing his head in? Not the best for little kids. So really the number should be 150 or higher. And when you look at No Way Home at 260 or whatever the exact number was, that's a different situation. That is an all-in four quad blockbuster. This is a smaller, obviously, art house, superhero take. And it's very good. And the filmmaking, as I just said, is stellar. But again, you are going to remove a significant portion of the movie-going audience when you limit it and include serial killer aspects. So I think a number of 150 is good. I think that anything under that, for me personally, is a disappointment. I don't know what Warner Brothers is saying. I imagine, knowing Warner Brothers and how the studios operate, here's how they go. They say, well, let's lowball this, because if we lowball the number, then we can, when it outperforms, then it looks, hey, look, it outperformed. But the reality is the number on this is got to be at least 135. I'd say 150. But if it's anything under that, if it's 125 or 110, that's not going to work. I don't think it is going to be that, but I'm just saying, if that is the number, don't let anyone spin it. I'm sorry, that's a disappointment. Anything under 135 is a disappointment for Warner Brothers, a disappointment for, certainly for me. And I think that that doesn't mean we're not going to get another Matt Reeves Batman movie, because this movie very clearly sets up a sequel. I mean, that's the whole close of this. And I think that's one of the problems with the film. It's a small problem, but it is an issue, is that it sets up the sequel so much so that you're just like, okay, maybe we could have just pulled back on that and just assumed we're going to have a sequel, or because we're going to get one. This thing's not going to tank. I mean, this thing's not going to do $90 million, which, by the way, Jokers are, okay? Jokers are, the fact that it did what it did at that number in $1 billion worldwide, it was a phenomenon, right? I mean, that's rare that you get something like that, an R-rated film with those kind of numbers. This should do well, I think, also for obviously weekend after weekend here, because you only have the Batman pretty much for the entire month of March. There's nothing else, nothing major. I mean, Uncharted's run its course, right? It's been out for 2 weeks. This is the third weekend coming up, and it did well. For that film, I would say absolutely outperformed, and it really held up well in the second weekend too, because there's nothing else to see at the multiplex. You have to, if you have competition, then obviously the number's going to drop. But when there's nothing else, like the Batman has here for the next month, it's going to do, let's say it opens at 140, 150. The following weekend, we could see a drop of 50% or maybe even less than that, maybe 45. Because again, this is not available on HBO Max. This is the first, Warner's film that has not been available date, as we call it, on HBO Max. And when that happens, then obviously you're going to get more people going to the movies, going to the theaters, because you can't watch it at home. I mean, we can debate it all day, but the one thing we cannot debate is the fact that if you give someone an option to watch something at home and then offer it at a theater, that it's the same as if it's theatrical only. Of course it's not, because a lot of people are going to say, I'm sticking at home, I'm going to save money, I'm just going to watch it there on my couch. I'm not going to go down to the theater. Or, let's imagine you're in New York. Edward, who's here, and Edward, by the way, I love your box office analysis. I've been reading it for years, and I think you're one of the best. But you're in New York. And imagine, someone in New York's like, I have to get on this subway and go here and here and here, or Los Angeles. For me, if I want to go to a screening on the West Side, like over at Fox, I'm in Burbank. It's a haul. I mean, it's like 45 minutes with traffic, because we're back to normal out here in LA. There was a time, obviously during COVID, that it took 25, 30 minutes to get there. Not now. It's 45 to an hour. So it's a major commitment to go to these things. So in other words, you give someone an option to watch at home, then of course they're going to take it. So this is only available in theaters, which is everything for a film. So this film will do, I say, 150 plus opening weekend. I hope it's not under that, because as far as I spin it, that's a disappointment. Warner's is going to say we're okay with 115, 120. I say 150 is the number. So 150. But second weekend, you go to, let's say, 75, or maybe it makes 80, 85, because it's only in theaters. There's nothing else to see. I think word of mouth is going to be generally positive, except for families. They're going to be pissed off. They're going to go, what? But again, go see the movie before you take your kids. You need to do that, unless you show your kids serial killer films all the time, and then it's a different situation. So I'm looking at some of the predictions here, and some of the people were saying 90 to 90 million. 90, 99? No way. That's way too low, Kevin. Kevin, that's low. Okay. If this thing does 99 or under, that is a huge, it's a massive disappointment for Warner Brothers if it does that. So let's just hope for, I think at that point, we might not get another Matt Reeves Batman if it opens up at under 100, sub 100, because again, we're out of COVID. Okay, you guys know that wherever you live, you're seeing it. The masks are off. I was at HCA, the Hollywood Critics Awards event here on Monday night. Nobody had a mask on. Okay, that is a marked change from where we were even just like 2 weeks ago. The entire audience was mask free, and this is Hollywood. Okay, so I was really kind of shocked to see that. None of the waiters or waitresses had their masks on. So it's really, the world has changed. People are moved on. And so, you look at No Way Home, that was in the middle of Omicron, when people were like, oh my God, right? Remember the fear campaign that was going on? So people didn't want to leave their house. Well, they still did. They went to see it to $260 million for Spider-Man No Way Home. So I understand this is not an MCU 4-quad film, but it doesn't matter. Batman is one of Mount Rushmore's superheroes. So when you make a Batman film, you're talking about one of the top properties for a CBM, okay? So that means that this film needs to be at least, I say the lowest number that Warner Brothers is going to be happy with is 135 to start. I think 150 for me, but 135. If it opens at 99 or whatever, and I know Kevin, again, you're saying the projections are 90. Listen, I'm telling you right here that the studios throw those numbers out there so that they can get a low ball number of we only expected 95, and then it opens at 150, because then you get the outperform. Throw the 90 number away because it's bullshit. That's a crap number, and Warner Brothers is just throwing it out there to muddy the water. The number is 125 and up. I still say it's 150 because, again, No Way Home at 260. You're telling me a Batman standalone film that's not rated R can't make 150 plus? We got a problem. Okay. I think the reviews are there. It's a little bit under 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and even the reviews that are rotten, which I don't know how you get there. Honestly, I don't know how. If you have a review that's at rotten for the Batman, I really am skeptical of everything you've ever reviewed at that point. Is you know, a 90% ish rating on Rotten Tomatoes is extremely positive. It's certainly higher than Eternals. And what did Eternals open to? 70? That was a different time. I think Eternals, if it opens now or like a few weeks ago when there was nothing, it opened bigger. It opened bigger than 70. So we're in a great spot. Warner Brothers has nailed this release date. There is no excuse. If this film underperforms, there is no excuse for Warner Brothers. They have promoted it. This town is littered with billboards that are getting stolen. You guys see my tweets about the billboard getting stolen? Someone went up there and literally box cutted it off. Just cut it right out of there. Someone somewhere has a Batman billboard with the gigantic head in their apartment, and you can't even fit it in. I mean, the wall's got to be at least 30 feet tall, how tall that head is. People are stealing billboards. There's demand for this film. It's sold out all the fan screenings. It's doing well again tonight. I tried to get a ticket tonight to go see it. Every seat is full. The Dolby Cinema down the street at Burbank 16, which is my favorite in all of LA, there's not a seat to be had, not even one in the front row. Literally every single thing is covered up. So again, demand is there and you can feel it. Everyone's talking about this film. We live in a society now where everything's atomized, right? Where it's like there's a million things going on and it's very hard to get anyone's attention on anything. And Batman, the Batman, has attention on it. People are discussing it. It's trending every 5 seconds on Twitter. And when that happens, that's unusual. We only get a few things that people, all congregate and discuss a year. And one of them, they're always going to be an MCU film, right? And in this case, the Batman. And when you get that opportunity and you've got a film that cuts through everything that's going on, all the noise, and the world is a lot of noise right now. You guys know what I'm talking about. The fact that we're still sitting here talking about the Batman, and it's really leading the discussion across the board, no matter where you go, everyone's talking about this film. That is unusual. That does not happen all the time. And the fact that that's happening means that this thing is ready to pop. I think 150 plus, easy. Anything under, I'm disappointed. I'm telling you the number, they can say 90 all day, but I'm telling you right now, there's no way that they're going to be okay with 90. And that's such a low ball number. So trust me on that. That's not it. I would say, again, 135 and up for me. No question. And Edward, good point. Yeah, studio's always lowball. Of course they're going to do that. Because, again, they want to set up the outperform. They don't want to have, it come in at a number. Let's say they say, hey, we expect it to make 135, and it comes in at 125. Well, then that's a disappointment. But if you say it's 90, and it pops 140, 150, 160, 170, 180. Oh my God, it doubled projections. Nah, your projections were low. That's why it doubled. If anything, it did outperform by, say, 30 million, because I say 150 is the number. And by the way, I guess the Rotten Tomato number is now at 86%. But listen, that's fine. You're never going to get 100%. Although I still got to say, for me, on Rotten Tomatoes, and I am a tomato approved critic, my number is usually like a 7.5. So I grade my films on a traditional old school grading system, A through F. So a C is like a 7. So anything under a 7 for me is not a good film. Okay, so like I would never give an average film a 5. A 5 for me is a really awful film. So if you're giving the Batman, honestly, anything under a 7.5 or whatever your grading system is, I'd say at least 3 stars out of 4, 3 out of 5. I don't know what you're doing, man. I really don't. I don't know what you expected. Some people are saying the tone. You knew it was going to be dark. Okay, you can tell it's a David Fincher Batman film. You know what Matt Reeves did. How much did I tell you guys during all of these, all the different, what's it called on Twitter, the spaces we did, all the spaces we did. How many times did I talk about the fact that you need to go back and watch Let Me In, Matt Reeves, vampire, of course, remake of Let the Right One In, the Swedish film. If you watch that, you know exactly what he is capable of, and Greg Fraser worked on that as well, cinematographer. The two of them worked on that film back in 2010. Here they are 12 years later. You knew the tone of this film was going to be that. You knew the tone was going to be dark. Look at the trailers. I mean, does it look like a laugh fest or something? No. So what are you talking about tone? I mean, that's just what it is. Is it overlong? Absolutely. Is the length, the extra length, is it enough to trash the film? Like House of Gucci. If you sat through House of Gucci, you know what I'm talking about. The back 45 of that is ass numbing. You literally want to grab, you know what I mean? You just want to get out of there. I didn't even want to finish the film. That's not what this is. It is excessively long, just but not to the point where it drags it all down. Thank God. But again, it probably could come in at about 2:30, and I would have been happier. Frankly, about the 2-hour mark, it's a really nice ending, even though it doesn't have the scope of that third act. And if you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to get into spoilers again, but that third act for me, I wish it were smaller in scope rather than larger. But it's still not enough for me not to recommend the film. So I don't know, again, if there's a critic out there who trashed this film and gave it like a 5 out of 10, literally like an F, I think you can go ahead and disregard whatever they say going forward. That's all. I mean, I don't see it. I can always get my head around certain things. Like if someone loves a film, Coda is a great example. If you've seen Coda, I'm not a huge Coda fan. And you know why? Because it is the filmmaking in Coda is extremely movie of the weekish. And for me, when I want to watch a film, I want to see direction that is exemplary, right? You want to see the direction that is just top shelf stuff, the tech on it. And that's what the Batman has. Coda does not have that. And what's interesting is, look, Coda could turn out and win Best Picture. And nobody is talking about direction for that film. When's the last time that happened? When's the last time a Best Picture had literally no discussion of direction? But what I also find interesting about that is that other people saw the same thing. So, but when I watch Coda, I can say I get how people like it. I went to see an FYC screening the other night. The woman behind me was literally weeping, having an emotional, breakdown at the end, and it is very emotional. So I understand how people like Coda. But in this case, with the Batman, I don't understand how you think this is a bad film. You can have issues with it, but a bad film, I don't know. Going forward, I don't know if I can trust what you have to say about films. So, listen, I think we're going to get a sequel no matter what, short of anything, a $90 million weekend. It's not going to happen. Listen, it's not going to happen. If it happens, I'll be here first thing on Monday or Sunday night, whenever we decide to go. If it goes 90, I might just go on live right then and go, holy shit, what just happened? Because it's going to be a huge disappointment. But that's not going to happen. It's going to be 150. Okay. Oh yeah. Did Mendelsohn give it a 5 from 4? I love Scott Mendelsohn. Scott Mendelson's awesome. Okay. Like we in fact, the funny thing is, DBZ Now telling me right now that Mendelsohn gave it a 5. Okay. I sat next to Scott Mendelsohn at our screening of the Batman in Century City, IMAX. And when it was over, I love, listen, the elements that I love in this film, I love. And he was just kind of like, I go, oh God, Scott, what are we doing here, buddy? we are not on the same page. I don't know, but listen, I do respect Scott. So, okay, aside from Scott Mendelsohn, every single other critic I can't trust. So that's fine. I'll make an exception for Scott, because I did sit next to him. So that was interesting. But it's funny how you could literally be one seat and have a completely different experience. But it also comes, what are your expectations for the film? If your expectations for the film were a comic book fun kind of thing, which I hope you didn't have, knowing what Matt Reeves brings to the table, then I can understand having a lower grade on it. But But again, for me, I knew what we were getting into. We were getting into Let Me In again. That's what this is. It's Let Me In with Batman. Fincher and meets The Dark Knight, and that's what we got. And I like the film a lot. The elements that are great in this film are so high. They're stratospherically high, right? And when you're pinging the top of the meter, like I just did with the mic, bing, 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 that means that's hitting the top. You're just firing in all cylinders. And when that happens, then I'm going to give it a good score because you have moments of outstanding cinema in it. So many of them, so that I gave it a 9.5 out of 10. But if a film doesn't have those moments that are just through the roof, great, then the score might be lower. But this film has plenty of those. The Batmobile scene alone, the club scene. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. You know the moments, and I think that Giacchino's score is very good. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's an Oscar caliber score. We'll see what happens. I mean, we got a long way to go for the Oscars. And I guess we'll talk about that for a moment here because we just did the box office. I say 150 plus. It better be. It should be. If it's under 135, that's not going to be good. Anything under that. But let's talk briefly about the Batman in awards because, as you guys know, I run Awards Ace, the Oscar site, and try to track all these films ahead of time and say, do they have a chance for the Oscars? Here's what I think the Batman has in, basically in the realm of awards. You certainly have cinematography with Greg Fraser because you have him obviously coming off of Dune. You've got one of the best in the business, and he delivers here with a number of shots. So the whole film looks unbelievable. It's bathed in an amber glow. It's just gorgeous to look at. Cinematography, absolutely. I think editing, sound, you've got all the tech stuff, okay? Score, possibly. We'll see what happens with that. But I think that, when you add all those elements together, you're looking at an awards player. But here's the issue. You guys know it's coming out now on the 4th is the official day. It's very hard to bring any film from March all the way through to next award season. You're talking about a year because the Oscars are still, 2 weeks away. Or 3 weeks away, whatever the date is. I honestly got him so kind of over the Oscars at this point. I've been talking about these films for the past 6 months, and I'm just like, let's talk about something else like the Batman. Let's talk about the Oscars 2023 Batman prospects. But the difficulty for any studio of bringing a film from March of this year all the way through to March of next year is virtually impossible. We've seen it happen with Black Panther. We saw it with Get Out. There are films that have done that, but it's not going to be easy for Warner Brothers to do for next year for the award season because there's going to be all these new films that come out in the fall and early next year that are going to be the ones that everyone wants to talk about. You look at the films that were in the running this year in the Best Picture. Almost every single one was released later in the date. The one that stands out that wasn't was Coda. I mean, Coda was a Sundance debut, and then it manages to go all the way through, get released in August, and then carry through. Apple is coming to play. I mean, we talk about Netflix all the time, but Apple is there. They could end up winning Best Picture. I can't believe it. I mean, really, if you would have told me 6 months ago that Coda would be the Best Picture winner, I wouldn't believe you. But now it's absolutely one of the things. Just came off SAG. Any other questions? We've been going about a half hour. It's perfect. See, we do one of these little box office discussions, and maybe we'll bring Edward on at some point. And we'll talk about the number. Edward, what was your number, by the way? Let me get it here. I know I don't want to go to your website. Do you have it? Can you tell me right now? Let's see. I'm waiting for Edward to reply. I bet you his number's at least 115. It better, Edward, your number on this better be higher than 115 for Batman. Because if it's under that, we got a problem. Okay, yeah, here he is. 142.6. So you're I said 150. That's it. 150 is the number. Forget the 90 million from Warner Brothers. 150 is the number. And I think that this film should get there even without the families. If it were family friendly, we'd be talking about a higher number than that. But as it is, I think 150, anything under that is going to be bad. Yes, I will do another one of these to talk about the opening weekend numbers. We'll do one probably Sunday night. We'll talk about the opening weekend numbers and also worldwide, global. Because listen, when we talk about box office, it's not just domestic. It is obviously overseas as well. Major part of it's not 1985 anymore. Okay, we are now in 2022. We're a worldwide box office is everything. How a film plays in China or India or any of these overseas markets is such a crucial part of success for any film. We've seen films like, look at Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim was a film that did not do that well domestically, but it got a sequel because it did well overseas. I think particularly China. I don't have the number right in front of me. I remember Pacific Rim, which I actually really liked. Trust me, there's issues with that film, but again, that's a film that is not. We don't get a sequel for it if it doesn't perform overseas. So if the Batman does decent here, it will, and then does really well overseas, we're obviously getting one. But I'm telling you right now, we're going to get another Matt Reeves Batman movie. There's no question. When you see it, you know they already have set up the sequel. In fact, that's my issue with the film, is that there's too much of a setup of a sequel. But yeah, we'll do one on Sunday. We'll talk about the numbers. And again, you've got the link right here, the new YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, and we will do another one of these discussions on Sunday. The number is 150. That's the number, not 90. So take that to the bank, and hopefully Warner Brothers gets this number because the film deserves it. We'll talk again on Sunday. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll talk soon.